Good morning, class. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you for coming today. Today we are going to be reading through an article that I have picked out for us. Following, we're going to be taking a short quiz and then doing a fun activity. So I hope you guys are ready for that. Make sure you have your pencils. If you do not have any, I have some on my desk over there. You can go and get them before we get started, just so you're prepared. First, to begin, to introduce this article, I want us to think back to what we talked about last time. The article that we talked about, that we read in class, that we took a quiz on. I want you guys to think back to that article, and I want us to discuss some different themes from that, some different things that we learned. Okay, some good thoughts. So last time the article was about World War II. And in World War II, what was the big thing that was going on? The main point of the article that we read the last time? Yeah, it was about the Holocaust. And I like that you mentioned what the Holocaust was. It was the killing of the mass murdering of all those Jews in the concentration camps by Adolf Hitler in Germany. So good job remembering that. Thank you. Another part of World War II that we discussed. What did we discuss? It was just a brief little mention of this in the article. It's okay if you don't remember it, but we're going to be talking about that today. Does anyone remember? You guys asked a lot of questions about it. Yeah, it was the women's role in World War II and what they did to help out with the war. Yeah, good point. They didn't just sit at home and wait for the war to be over. They actually got out and did things. And I know that you guys really expressed an interest in that. So today I have an article picked out that goes more in depth in the women's role in World War II, what they did to help out, what they did, what they sacrificed in this war. So we're just going to be talking about that. So the first part of this article, it was supposed to be a video. I'm just going to read through that to you. Just listen along. You can read along. And then when we get into the article, I will be having you read. And after this video is over, I will be asking you some questions, so please make sure you are paying attention. So here we go. This article is called Ask History, Rosie the Riveter. Who is the real Rosie the Riveter? Ask History has the story behind this famous icon. She starred in a famous World War II propaganda campaign and eventually became one of the most famous icons in American history. But who exactly was Rosie the Riveter? And what's the real story behind her well-known image? To start with, it's not really about a riveter named Rosie. It's not even about one woman, but about millions. After the United States entered World War II in late 1941, government and industrial leaders called on American women to join the workforce in order to replace the manpower lost when men enlisted as soldiers. Some 6 million would answer that call. Between 1940 and 1945, the female demographic of the national workforce increased from 27% to nearly 37%. Half of these working women took on tough jobs in defense industries. Rosie was first introduced to the public in a popular song called Rosie the Riveter, released in early 1943. The song was made famous by swing bandleader James Kern K. Kaiser. Norman Rockwell had undoubtedly heard the song when he painted a female riveter on her lunch break for the Memorial Day issue of the Saturday Evening Post that year. Posed like the prophet Isaiah in Michelangelo's famous fresco on the Sistine Chapel ceiling, she rests her foot on her battered copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf. Her riveting gun rests on her lap, while her lunchbox clearly reads Rosie. Rockwell's model was a dental hygienist named Mary Keefe, but was there a real Rosie the Riveter? After Rockwell's cover appeared on newsstands, the press lost no time in casting real-life Rosies. One of the most well-known was Rose Will Monroe, who worked as a riveter on B-24 and B-49 bomber airplanes at the Willow Run Aircraft Factory in Michigan. Monroe appeared in a promotional video for War Bonds after a chance run-in with a Hollywood actor filming at the factory. But Rosie the Riveter was bigger than just one woman. She was a symbol of the wartime work and sacrifice of millions. Though Rockwell's painting was the original depiction of Rosie, she is most widely identified with a different image. In 1942, the year before the Rosie song was released, the Westinghouse Power Company commissioned J. Howard Miller to create a promotional poster that would boost morale among its employees. The now famous poster featured a bandana-clad woman flexing her arm muscles under the slogan, "We can do it." Due to the copyright restriction of Rockwell's work, Miller's "We Can Do It" poster was adopted by the feminist movement of the 1980s as a modern symbol of female empowerment. It is now the image most commonly associated with Rosie. Okay, now that I have read through that video, I want to ask you a couple questions just to get you thinking about that video. So first of all, why do you think Rosie the Riveter was created? Okay, that's a good idea. To boost to make people aware of the fact that women were getting so involved in World War II, the sacrifice that they made, to show that they were strong. Yeah, good point. Yeah, good ideas. Oh yeah, that's a good point too. To inspire more women to get involved in the war effort. To show that women were capable of joining the war effort, helping out. What's that? Yeah, that's a good point. I know that women might think that they weren't capable of helping out in this war effort, but yeah, that's a good point. Rosie the Riveter came along and kind of showed them that they were capable. Good points. Yeah. Okay, good question. It says that she rests her foot on her battered copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf. So Hitler's Mein Kampf was a book that he had written. Mein Kampf means my struggle. So this was a book that he had written. Why do you think that she is resting her foot on this book? Okay. Yeah, that's a good thing, a good idea, to show that they were powerful over Hitler and that they would defeat him, that they were helping to defeat him. That's a good thought. Yeah, I like your thoughts about that. Good discussion. We are going to switch over to the actual article now. And I want you guys to join in and to help me read through Everyone is going to have a turn to read through this article. We are going um, to pause to discuss each section. Um, yeah. Okay, starting out, will you read for us, please, Anna? Thank you. During World War II, some 350,000 women served in the U.S. Armed Forces, both at home and abroad. They included the Women's Air Force Service pilots who, on March 10, 2010, were awarded the prestigious Congressional Gold Medal. Meanwhile, widespread male enlistment left gaping holes in the industrial labor force. Between 1940 and 1945, the female percentage of the U.S. workforce increased from 27% to nearly 37%, and by 1945, nearly 1 out of every 4 married women worked outside of the home. So, this article brings up a good point in the very first sentence that women were helping out both at home and abroad. Um, I know that some women probably had lots of children that they had to care for, and they weren't able to go out and work in factories. Maybe they had poor health or something like that. But the important thing is that they were still able to help. I think that's a good point. Okay, women in the armed forces. Can you read next, James? Thank you. In addition to factory work and other home front jobs, some 350,000 women joined the armed services, serving at home and abroad. At the urging of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt and women's groups, and impressed by the British use of women in service, General George Marshall supported the idea of introducing a women's service branch into the Army. In May 1942, Congress instituted the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps, later upgraded to the Women's Army Corps, which had full military status. Its members, known as WACs, worked in more than 200 non-combatant jobs stateside and in every theater of the war. By 1945, there were more than 100,000 WACs and 6,000 female officers. In the Navy, members of women accepted for volunteer emergency services, WAVES, held the same status as naval reservists and provided support stateside. The Coast Guard and Marine Corps soon followed suit, though in smaller numbers.